Hey, what is up guys? My name is Oleg, this is Bond. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm gonna do a mini review of my favorite Seiko 5 watch, possibly one of my favorite Seiko watches of all time. If not my favorite, top 5 for sure. So, let's get started. If you're following the channel for a while, you probably are somewhat familiar with this watch. I featured it in a few different videos, one of them being state of my Seiko watch collection. I also featured it on my wrist at the end of a few different videos. So how did I come about buying this watch? I believe that every great and personal watch in your collection, not every, but a lot of great watches and your favorite watches in the collection should have a story. And this one has, I think, a pretty cool story. My girlfriend and I went to a flea market. I actually haven't gone in a really long time, but I used to go pretty much every weekend. I would ride my bicycle to the flea market, kind of look around, bring a little bit of cash with me, not too much because it can be dangerous to bring a lot of cash to a flea market, not theft or anything, just spend too much cash. So I would bring maybe 200 Canadian dollars or so. And one of the vendors that usually sells watches had this watch on his table. I saw it, immediately fell in love. Now, I didn't really need another Seiko in my collection, but as the saying goes, one thing led to another, and I ended up walking away with this watch. The seller wanted 50 Canadian dollars. Usually I would kind of negotiate with the seller or heckle, but I decided, hey, this watch definitely is worth 50 Canadian dollars, which is just under 40 US. I thought it was a fair price, so I didn't even want to bargain with him. I just said, yeah, sure, I'll pay you the $50. I brought it home, and the more I wore the watch, the more I fell in love with it. First of all, the condition of the watch is pristine. It looks like new old stock. There were no scratches whatsoever on the clasp or on the bracelet. And as you can see, the bracelet here has this metal polished part, the metal polished link to it. So if you are planning to buy one of these watches, just kind of inspect the pictures closely because you don't want to have scratches on this polished part. They show up very easily. It has just a pressed metal clasp, as was very common and still is very common for entry-level Seiko watches. It has hollow end links, and the links of the bracelet are just folded metal links. All that doesn't matter because the watch, to me at least, has a lot of charm. A few months after I bought the watch, I went online and I typed in the serial number, the movement number, and the case number into one of these kind of Seiko watch age finders. There's a few different websites where you type in this information into the web browser and it will tell you the age of your Seiko. And this watch was instantly made even more special to me because it's made in November of 1991, my birth year and my birth months. And that's why it's so amazing to sometimes go around and find watches at flea markets or garage sales or even online on eBay, vintage watches. Again, be careful when you're buying vintage watches, but sometimes you can get lucky and you buy a watch like this and instantly it became even more special to me. First of all, I already really liked the watch, but then it was made in the same month and the same year as when I was born. So I thought it was very special and really cool. It's been almost a year since I purchased this watch and I still love it to this day. I still have this kind of honeymoon period with it. Every time I look at it, I find some new details. I really love how this dial and the applied indices play with the light. I really like the metallic seconds hand and the minute and the hour hands. I like the applied Seiko 5 shield and the Seiko logo by the 12 o'clock position. I like the metallic finish to the date complication, even the way automatic is written. Just a lot of very nice but simplistic details to this dial. I also really like that raised domed acrylic crystal. I think it fits the style of this watch really well. My grail watch for the longest time was a Rolex Datejust, a vintage Rolex Datejust. If you're a follower of the channel, once again, you probably know that I did buy that grail watch a few months ago, but until that time, for about a half a year or so, this was my kind of an alternative to a Rolex Datejust. And at the first glance, you can kind of see a lot of similarities. Of course, the bracelets are different, the case shape is different, but there are still some details that are reminiscent of a Rolex Datejust. So this was kind of my substitute. Another watch that this watch actually reminds me quite a bit of is a AP Royal Oak, kind of an older version. Of course, this one doesn't have that iconic bezel with the screws. However, the case shape and the way the bracelet is integrated into this case, kind of those sharp angles on the lugs, do remind me of an AP Royal Oak. It's not an homage or anything, and of course nobody would mistake this watch for that, but I do like that kind of a mix between the two watches, between the Rolex Datejust and the AP Royal Oak. Again, you might not see it, you might disagree, but at least to my eye, that's what it looks like the mix of those two watches. The movement power in this watch is 7009. It's kind of a common movement in a lot of introductory Seiko 5 watches. Doesn't have hand winding, doesn't have hacking. It does have a date complication, and the date complication change is very interesting. So the crown is of course at the 4 o'clock position, as is very iconic and common with a lot of Seiko 5 watches. So how do you change the date? You basically turn the crown from the first position downwards, and that's how you change the date. To change the days of the week, what you have to do, you actually have to press on the crown, and as you do, days of the week change. Kind of a unique and a funky way of doing it, but I really do enjoy that, and the movement to this day is fairly accurate. I'm getting plus 30 seconds per day. I know this watch is not going to be to everyone's liking. The smaller size of it might be a turn off for a lot of people. It's a 36mm diameter with 11mm thickness, so it's a very slim watch. It's a small watch, slender, fits well on my size of a wrist, but I know a lot of you guys would prefer something maybe larger, 42mm. So I understand that, plus kind of the vintage stigma behind the watch, plus the bracelet is not the greatest, even though I find it charming. I know that if you look at it objectively, it's a terrible bracelet. So yeah, this watch is not for everyone, but to me it's very special. I think it has kind of an interesting story behind how I found it, and I don't see this watch leaving my collection anytime soon. Plus, it's a very, very good looking watch. Every time I post a picture of the Seiko 5 on Instagram, it's one of the more popular watches in my collection. I also get a lot of comments and a lot of personal messages, people asking what reference of a watch this is. So clearly I'm not the only one who likes this reference. Alright guys, so that was the story slash mini review of my favorite Seiko 5 watch. I appreciate you watching this video until the end. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what is your favorite Seiko watch. Doesn't have to be a Seiko 5 series specifically, but what is your favorite Seiko watch? To me right now, from my current collection, is this watch right here, the SKX, and also the Seiko 6139, the automatic chronograph. So those are three of my favorites in the current collection, plus I have some other favorites that I don't currently own, but I would love to get, and also I want to hear your thoughts on your favorite Seiko watches. By the way, today on my wrist I'm wearing the vintage Baume & Mercier chronograph from 1950s, a very special watch to me as well. It was a birthday present to myself. I bought it a few months ago, so I did a full review and an unboxing video for this watch. Both of those videos will be linked in the description below. Also in the description below, there is a secret link. Have a look if you're curious. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.